My name is Glen Lubbert. I'm one of the co-hosts here tonight for Make Your New Year's Resolutions Finally Stick. I'm here with Dr. Deborah Teplow. And Deborah, you are where in the world?
Where in the world are you? I'm in New Jersey, but I never will give up my Northern California pedigree. So I'm from Northern California, but I live in New Jersey now.
Great, excellent. I'm actually in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and for the winter here for the next few months. And I too have my home in the Bay Area. So we both have that love for the Bay Area. I am, I would say I'm a behavior design expert, just as Deborah will, and mindfulness advocate. I am an entrepreneur. I've been working at the intersection of tech and well-being, and my company is called Stamina Lab, and we are working on tools and solutions to help people improve their performance and well-being. And I'm very, very happy to be here tonight with all of you. And as I said, I'm here with Deborah. Deborah?
I'm Deborah Teplow, and I'm thrilled to be here tonight with you all also. I am a behavior design expert, although for my students, I consider myself the fairy godmother of change. And I come to this, I'm CEO and co-founder of the Institute for Wellness Education, and I come to that after 25 years of developing continuing education for physicians. And now with IWE, we train professionals and activists in healthcare education and the social services, all on behavior design and how to foster lasting positive change in themselves and clients.
Sorry, I'm getting a little in my throat. So I want to do a little bit of housekeeping. I'd like to start off. We're using the Zoom software, and for excuse me. So what we have is the chat room available. There's a chat button, and we very much welcome you to use the chat area to ask any questions and back channel talk to each other, and use it to just ask what you wanted to do. And we're going to go through all the questions, as many as we can. And any questions that we can't get answered during our hour, we'll definitely follow up and answer for everyone. And I think we could start off, just as Deborah and I talked about where we're from. If you want to put in the chat where you're from, and that'd be a good start.
So I'll just interject while Glen's trying to get his voice back. So we've worked with thousands of people around the world, so it's always fun to see where people are from. So use that chat now to let us know where you're all coming from, even if it's not the San Francisco Bay Area or California. Okay, so we've got from cool, from Australia and from originally from Michigan. Okay, we've got the coasts and Newfoundland. Wow, far east of the Western world. I love that. Okay, so welcome everybody.
The other thing about the Zoom software we want to have is there's a hand raise function. So we're going to be asking, this is going to be really interactive on the workshop, and we're going to be asking a lot of questions to find out what you're trying to achieve for your New Year's resolutions. And so there's a raise your hand function, and that will allow us to understand that you want to interject and ask your question, and we'll unmute you from there. So I think that, the best way to get started is just to talk, Deborah, tell me about what you're doing for your New Year's resolutions.
Well, true confessions, I don't have any because I don't do them. So, how is it possible that we're doing this workshop, and I'm going to help you improve your success with your New Year's resolutions? Well, in fact, I do have a period where I reflect on how I'm doing. I assess my performance in different areas of my life, and I do set goals and plans for how to achieve those goals. I just don't do them on January 1st. My birthday's in September, school starts in September, and for years I was an academic. So you can imagine when my quote New Year's starts. It's September, so that's when I do them.
And I too do not do New Year's resolutions, so that's what makes this fun. I do a annual review every year, and it starts around Thanksgiving time, and does go through the New Year piece, and it's both a reflection and on what I've done in the past. I use a lot of data to help with that, and I keep a lot of data pieces in there, and then some journaling about what's working and what's not working. There's one exercise that I like to do. It's the plus minus peak experiences. So basically, I take a piece of paper in my journal, split it right down the middle, plus side and a minus side, and I go through the calendar and look for peak experiences, both positive and negative, and look for the 20% of people that and things that were really the most impactful for me, and try to make more time with those people. And then the 20% in the negative is put those people on the list, and those places or things on the list that I just need to stay away from. And that's one just journaling way to get myself started. Another idea that I really like is just to write a storyline for the year ahead. Our brains are set for telling stories, and having a storyline for myself allows us to be less rigid about exactly this and that that's going to happen. And I do have more concrete, specific goals, and the storyline though is just just as this is generally how I'm going to approach the year, what I'm seeing for the year. My storyline for this year is to kick ass.
I didn't know that, Glenn. That's a great one. Okay. So we actually have some people who've, and thank you all very much for sharing, because that's what makes us all stronger, is when we share with each other. Julie says she uses inspirations or goals rather than resolutions. And Richard says he breaks it down to 3-month periods and 2 and 5 year terms. So that's short term, fairly short term, and then the longer piece. So you see how that short term role evolves.
Yeah, works out. I think one of the things that's interesting that we want to talk about is, just like you said, when you attack your goals. It is not just being New Year's. Like I said, I started my process a bit in over the Thanksgiving break, but also many years I went to the Burning Man event, and that is too in the end of August, beginning of September there, and that's the same. I really like that one because it was similar to what you said. The new school year started. It really felt natural for a renewal of that new year. And I want to ask you, Deborah, can you tell us a little bit about these different times of years of when you have anchors, and what else could be an anchor?
Yeah, so let's talk about that, because that's part of opening up your ideas of what the options are for how to approach change in a chunk. So it doesn't only have to be January 1st. That's a time period, but there are other ways to anchor that change, or to anchor your thinking about change. So one is by time, either September, your birthday, or January 1st. Glenn just said Burning Man, so that's event. Another way is seasonal. Think about the practice of spring cleaning, or on the solstices, or start of school, or special religious or spiritual days or events. So there are seasonal anchors that you can use. There are also things that can set the stage for change. And those things are maybe getting a new watch. If it happens to be a tracking kind of watch, like a Fitbit, well, there you have an anchor for some change. Or a new mug. And we were just laughing about that, because as a gift this holiday season, one of the kids got me a beautiful mug. So I am definitely drinking more herbal tea with that beautiful mug. Or new clothes. And, some people have it here on the East Coast. I've heard the skinny white pants season. That's May, when people move from winter clothes to summer clothes. So that's an anchor for paying attention to what you're eating and the kind of shape you're in, because you want to look good in your skinny white pants.
Or new workout clothes. That's always a great one to get you motivated to get your workouts.
Right, right. And people can come into your lives. You meet somebody who's doing something cool, and so you start to do it with them, or friends need some support, or you've been maybe toying with the idea of a change, and a friend comes into your life, or a colleague comes into your life, and that can also be an anchor for change, or a club starts up. And that's also a kind of structure that helps move you from wherever you're at now into change. So again, it's time, event, season, things, and people.
One of the things about the club I thought was interesting is that I was talking about a club in a workout club in New York City, where I think this was in the book Atomic Habits, where they have self-proclaimed geeks who want to get together that might not have done might want to be going to the gym themselves, but now that they're going with this community, that they can talk about things that they also care about, but then do it in a context of this new value that they want to both achieve, is a great way to mix up people and places together. Spring cleaning, another one, is as far as seasonal. I really like that one. It's always a great anchor to get out the clutter habit.
Yeah.
I think it would be good to ask anchors from people in our attendance here. What anchors do you use to help with your goals and resolutions?
So that's if you use January 1st, great, share that with us. Otherwise, do you do things with time, events, seasonal things, or people?
Yeah, I mean, and you put it in the chat, or we can unmute and you can chat a little bit about it too as well. Would be great. Just you can do the hand raise thing, or
yeah, it'd be fun to hear from everybody, and there are no wrong answers.
They're correct, because there's all kinds of anchors.
Yeah. Okay.
So Julia offered birthday, new journals, new classes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, new journal is great.
Mm-hmm.
Feeling.
Yeah.
So if you usually do the hand raise piece, then we can unmute you too as well. Julian offered new year or new season.
Mm-hmm. Richard tries to complete at least 10 new courses per year in food, education, nutrition, economics. Wow, 10, that's fantastic.
We got you cut off a bit there in video, Deborah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Whoa. Okay. Sorry, my little paper.
All right, let's talk about what to choose to do your New Year's resolution, whether you do it at different times of the year or not. Like, what do you choose? I think this is really important, because a lot of times people are choosing things that they are supposed to do, or that that this is the latest this is the latest trend, and so they want to do this program when in reality it's something that they don't really enjoy doing.
Yeah, so one of our rules is make sure that whatever you choose to do is something that you want to do, and that will make a difference in your life. No, the shoulds, the woulda, coulda, shoulda, they may be important, but if you don't want to do it, it's going to be very hard for you to carry that out. So number one is choose something that you want to do. Another way to choose what you want to do, and we really have 4 categories. Again, the purpose of our workshop tonight is to expand your thinking about all the options that are out there for you to think about as ways to improve your life. So one of the options and factors to consider when thinking about choosing how am I going to make my life better is to look at internal, your psychological, emotional identity and values. So we talk about psychological, that might be feel more optimistic, feel less stressed. Emotional, that's also a feeling, but I would say one of my examples for emotional is manage my anger better. And identity would be to focus on who I am and to ask myself, am I living by my values? And who do I want to be in the world? And how do I want to express that? So is that being generous? Is it recognizing and appreciating and being grateful? Is it being kind? So those are the internal factors that I might look at and say, well, where do I want to change there? They're also physical.
In the internal one too, I just wanted to add, Deborah, too, one of the exercises they also like to do is not just, who do you want to be, but who do you not want to be? Do the reverse of that question. I think that's an interesting way to reframe it too as well.
Wow, I never thought about that. That's amazing. Who do I not want to be? Okay, great, thanks. Another area to consider is physical. If you ask people, when New Year's resolutions, diet and exercise, stop smoking, drink less, whatever. But
there's a ton of those on this list of people that submitted.
Yeah, so physical. And in addition to that, social, get a hot date on Friday night. Well, there are, of course, relationships, and that means how am I relating to the people closest to me, my family, to my inner circle, that's friends, colleagues at work, or even acquaintances. And one thing I'll say, as a New Year's resolution in September, I admit that I set a year ago, and it's worked out amazing, is make eye contact and smile at people in the store who are helping me. So it doesn't matter if I'm buying, a tube of toothpaste or a whole big whatever. Eye contact, smile, thank. And that's actually expanded through the year I do a lot of traveling, and I very purposely and deliberately smile when I stand in the security line. And amazingly, it makes me feel really happy. And I've caught people's attention, and they kind of smile back. And we know that, the mind-brain connection, smiling is very powerful mood lifter or uplifter. So that's part of social. And then finally, that other area, in additional, we talked about internal, we talked about physical and social, is occupational. Now, occupational does not mean just jobs. Occupational means, how do you occupy yourself? How do you use your time? So that could be your job, it could be hobbies, but it's really about how are you occupying your time? So that's another way to look at, what do I want to change in my life? Am I using my time in a way that affirms who I am and builds on that?
The two things that came up for me on that one too, as well as, we've often talked about this, is like, if you want to do something, you want to do something less or eliminate something, you're like, what do you want to do instead? And I think that goes into some part in the occupational part that maybe remember that, but what do you want to do instead of that activity? And also understanding what is the emotion that is driving that activity, so it helps you figure out what you want to do instead.
Yeah, and I just want to capitalize on that and reinforce that so often when we're thinking about making changes in our lives, we're thinking about what we don't want to do, but we're not thinking about what we replace it with. And that's that replacing, or the principle of substitution, is really, really critical. So when you're thinking of New Year's resolutions, I resolve never to do X. Well, the question is, what are you going to do instead? And that's the focus. There was a book written in about 1970. It was Why Diets Don't Work. And he talks about pie. And if you say, don't eat pie, don't eat pie, don't eat pie, the author said, your body doesn't know. It doesn't know don't. It doesn't see don't. It doesn't taste don't. It doesn't hear don't. It doesn't smell don't. It doesn't feel it. But it does feel, smell, taste, etc. pie. And so as you're repeating, don't eat pie, your brain is hearing pie, pie, pie. And similarly, so I think your point, Glenn, is just so great, is think of instead. What do you want to do instead of the don't?
Yeah, and then it doesn't that in that same study of that when you say you don't want to do it, it makes you more likely to do it because you're repeating it.
Yeah, right, like a mantra.
Yeah, and the other thing that was that I thought was I do for mine is I had set up one where, and I don't remember when I started this, it wasn't at New Year's, but it was just when I said, I just want to start doing this. And it was whenever I see a service person, whether it's a fireman or a military veteran or a police officer, to go up and shake their hand, thank them for their service. Even someone in janitorial, please, thank you for your service. And I've been doing that now for several months, and the smiles that light up. And the appreciation that comes from that is as fulfilling for me as probably more than it is as for them. But the anchor is when I see someone that person, people from there, and then my the behavior that I'm adding is the thank you, a piece with the smile.
Spreading the love.
And there was one other thing that you mentioned I was going to pull out, and I think it was around the an exercise I do for values, and being able to I do that. It's a mid-year review. It's a values review, integrity report I call it. And that's so you do these New Year's resolutions, and mid-year it's a different type of way to look at your life. And so how am I stacking up to my values? And that gives a reassessment. I think one of the things that is different than doing a New Year's resolution is doing an ongoing review of where you're at. The person has said they do a 3-month program, and that's the kind of thing that every few months reassessing where you are and where you're going, and that keeps it more fluid, I think, than a 1 January 1st push.
And that brings up the topic of deliberate practice. So for people who've done musical training or athletic training, and that's both Glenn and me, have done athletics and musical training, any kind of arts, or even, I suppose, construction, cutting a straight line, in that deliberate practice where you're improving incrementally. You're setting very tiny incremental goals. And so it's not even, a week, you're not even assessing yourself over a week or a month. It may be, a moment. Did that bow on the string squeak, or was it, it wasn't what I'm going for? How was my stride at that moment? How was my curveball? So that's another way to look at your progress on very tiny incremental dimensions, and then celebrate the success you're having. And we'll talk about celebration a little bit later.
And one thing I want to add about choosing too as well is that you want to make sure you like you said, one, you want to do it, and two, you have the ability to do it, that it's not going to be something that's so difficult to achieve that whenever invariable barrier comes up to you, that you don't actually do it. So we talk about keeping them very small, and we'll talk more about that in a bit here, but that's really key for how you're choosing. So I guess next I would like to ask, anyone wants to share how they go about choosing their what they want to do for their New Year's resolutions. And you can type it in the chat, or we can put you on mute to talk too. We'd love to not be the only people talking tonight.
Okay, well, Ryan shared that he wants to drink more water, so he purchased a neat water cup. Reminds him to drink. That's cool. You look forward to drinking that. Make the experience more pleasant and appealing. And Ferd says time anchors work. And Mohammed says, I think is our minds remove the don't word. Right. So we remove, our minds remove it or don't even recognize the don't word. We recognize what we're not supposed to do. And Julie shares that she strongly supports deliberate practice. That's how world-class performers get better, is deliberate practice, is that tiny increment, looking very carefully and assessing how you're doing, getting feedback, immediate feedback, and making that incremental progress. And it's not always fascinating, but you do it. And unless you're fascinated with process, which I am, so it's easier for me to do. Let's see, somebody has a goal to keep healthier, Emma, and so she tracks how many servings of veggie she eats every day or walk. Yeah, and the tracking makes it more deliberate. And when you can put something on paper that or digital that you're progressing, it makes it concrete. It's a way to memorialize it.
The other thing about the tracking, which I obviously do a lot of the tracking myself, obsessively, but I enjoy the checking off of it. That's kind of a celebration in itself, is, when you've completed that task or your habit that you want to do. That checking off is a form of celebration that really helps reinforce it.
So let's talk about the how now. What makes New Year's resolutions, no matter when you do them, what makes them work the best? So we have 6 suggestions. Make it small. And when we talk small, we say ridiculously tiny. And by ridiculously, I mean, if you want to get exercising, start with 2 push-ups. Start with 3 jumping jacks. And that's small. Because once you start, how many of you, and you can do a hand raise or a Y for yes, how many of you, let's just take exercise. How many of you thought, I don't exercise, Dave, but then you go out, and as soon as you started, the process, the ball is rolling, and you go as long as you thought you should, but didn't want to. Like, I wanted to run 3 miles. I was kind of like, I mean, I knew I should have run 3 miles. That was my goal, but I wasn't so into it. And I started, and after a little bit, it was like, oh, okay, it's kind of cool. Who's experienced that? Just the get started. Aim for 15 minutes. Yeah. Getting started, often the hardest, right? Yeah. And just get started.
Just show up is a thing. Just show up at the gym and go home. and make that a win.
I forgot. I actually had that. With something that I had to do. It wasn't the gym. It was something else. And I said, oh, I should go, and I should be there for 2 hours. And it was like, and I said, I changed, and I said, okay, I'm just going to show up. I completely forgot. And so I did that. I showed up. Sometimes I'd go in, sometimes I wouldn't. Most of the time I did go in, and now I'm doing that activity regularly just because I started showing up. And so thank you, Glenn. I had forgotten about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's part about building the habit. We actually don't have to actually do the activity, but we're continually building that neural pathway that says, this is what I do when this anchor happens. This is what I do next. And so that's a key piece of getting it so small. I was looking through some of these other ones on the sheets of people that put out here. One is becoming more active. And again, that's, starting so small is maybe you're just putting on your shoes, your walking shoes, and you're calling it a day, or you're just going to step out on off the porch into the sidewalk and call it a day. Now, if you get all the way out on the sidewalk, you're probably going to walk a block or two, and sure enough, over time, that's how you build that sustainable behavior.
Yeah, I have a great story about that one. Is that my mom is almost 95, and she had a rocking chair that she sat in and looked at the water outside of her house. And I thought, she's sitting too much. So I said, Mom, what would you think about getting a stationary bike instead? She belonged to a gym, but she often didn't go. So she said, sure. My mom's just a great sport. So we got a stationary bike. I moved the rocking chair out of the way, put the stationary bike smack dab in the middle of the living room that she passes whenever she's going between the kitchen and the office, where she does her internet and Facebook. She has more friends than I do. And so the bike was there, and I said, Mom, why don't you go ride your bike? She says, oh, I'll do it later. I said, well, how about just sit on it? So she says, oh, okay, I'll go sit on it. She goes and sits, and after half an hour, I'm thinking, where's my mom? Like, she disappeared. I go in the living room, and there she's biking. And that was 6 months ago. So my mom is biking. She's almost 95. She bikes probably a half an hour, at least once a day, if not twice.
And that's also what I see. You made it really easy for her to do it, because you put it right there. So it's right, what did you say, right in front of the television?
Right in front, actually at the window where she looks out to a lagoon with lots of water.
Oh yeah, even better. So yeah, so she made it so easy that it's right there. That's another key piece to how you make this work the best, is making it so easy that you can't not do it.
Right. So it becomes the inevitable choice, or it becomes the default. So small, easy. Then we talk about what else makes our resolutions work best is that it's very specific. So get healthy is lovely. It's kind of abstract. What does healthy mean? Does it mean eat 5 servings of veggies a day? Does it mean go outside and smell the fresh air, breathe fresh air? So being extremely specific. And then, like I said, we have 6 things that make these resolutions work best: small, specific, easy. Number 4 is it should make a difference in your life. That's the why do it. If you don't have a strong rationale for doing it, and you don't perceive a benefit, then it's not going to work that well. It's got to make a difference. Number 5 is that make sure the change that you're aiming for aligns with your deep values. And then we can talk about that. And 6 is have fun, make it a game. So I always want to get more exercise, and I make it a game. I realize today nobody cares, and it makes 0 difference, 0, whether I'm doing push-ups or squats or sit-ups. It just doesn't matter at the end. I'm not training for a specific sport. I just want to be in good shape and strong, flexible, endurance, etc. So it really doesn't matter what I do, as long as I'm doing something. And so I make it a game. It's like, oh, I have to go up the stairs. Well, am I going to go 2 by 2? Am I going to run? Am I going to get to the landing and hop 10 times? So that's the fun part and the game part. So small, specific, easy, makes a difference in your life, aligns with deep values, and 6 is fun.
Yeah, and this specific pieces like this one I just said, become more active. Well, that's great. There's tons of ways you can become more active. That's the fun part. Brainstorm a whole lot of ways that you can become more active. And pick ones that you really like and start there and make those super small. Park farther away from the door, and that's your thing you do, and you're more active now. You just figure out something that's going to be fun for you to do, because there's many different ways to become more active. And then once you start doing these new activities, one compounds onto another, and then all of a sudden your identity is built up and is, you know what, I'm an active person. I'm doing parking away from the store front. I'm walking up all the stairs. I go for a walk. You know, now you have 4 or 5 things that are adding up, and now you identify yourself with being an active person. And then once that happens, it becomes natural. You're not really working on new things. You're actively part of your identity.
Yeah, and that's a really important one. I just want to underline or underscore that as you do, small and random acts of whatever it is you want to do, it starts shifting your identity. So it's no longer I do exercise. It's I am an exerciser, or I am an active person. So an active person, by definition, takes opportunities to walk the stairs, park and get off the bus stop one stop earlier. And I have an example of that. I think I was in a really fun mood a few years ago, and I said to myself, well, why walk when you can run? So I decided I would run wherever I needed to go. So I parked the car and I will run I parked the car far away from the library, the store. I mean, far means, a block, and I'll run. And last year I had a meeting with somebody and I was running to go to the meeting, and I passed someone and I realized it was the person I was supposed to meet with. I was a little bit early, so were they. And I looked at them and they said, "What are you doing?" I realized, oops. But I didn't mind because I'm an active person. That's who I am. So, that's another example of just having fun, making it a game, and also being an inspiration to other people.
The other one item I wanted to pick up from what you were talking about was the makes a difference in your life piece. I think that's one of the best places to start is the why you want to do this New Year's resolution. And I say just specifically write down why you want to do it, and it's a couple why questions. You go, I want to lose weight to be more active. In this example, the first one is I want to be more active so that way I could lose weight, so that I can be able to be healthy for my children or grandchildren, and see them grow up. So it's like a series of whys. Why do you want to do this? For why, and really get concrete, and then write that actually down so that it's actually very visual in your brain. And I think to visualize it too. Make a collage of it, or find a picture that represents it. Put it on the refrigerator or somewhere you're going to see. Put it on your desk if you're trying to. I want to go. If I want to go on a trip with my family. Why am I going to make that extra hour of phone calls to earn more money, to be able to be more productive, to be able to take my family on this vacation. And I also, you can make a picture. I even put it on my phone so that my screen is something that continues to remind me of the why that I'm pursuing this storyline or goal for the year.
So that's a strategy to use people around you for support, people, places, things. Go places that support what you want to do, and use tools, any opportunities to reinforce your identity and that thing that you want to achieve. Really important.
That's great. Reinforce that identity. So let's ask again, everyone in attendance here, what has made, when you've been successful, what's made them work for you?
So Julie says about having the goal ridiculously tiny, then it's not daunting. And we hear that over and over, that people want to do things, but it's too overwhelming. So just take that right off the table by making something so, again, ridiculously tiny, that our natural inclination to go, doesn't come up.
But how about, in that same devil's advocate though, Deborah, you said to do 2 push-ups. Well, 2 push-ups aren't going to do anything for me. So why would I just do 2 push-ups?
Oh, it's a great question. So the point of 2 push-ups is that, well, Glenn, you said about the neural pathways, and I think about it establishing a space for you to do that, and you can always do more. So the point is that it's the getting started. We already talked about it's hard to get started. So once you get started, the rest will naturally flow. Or on the day when you're really tired, you're really stressed, you don't have time, whatever, and you still do those 2 little things, you could pat yourself on the back, you can celebrate, and you can use you can evoke what I say, at least I did X. And the point of achieving, or one of the ways to help yourself achieve your goals, your resolutions, is to celebrate all your successes, whatever progress it is. So make sure that you create actions that you can celebrate. So it's the 2 push-ups, and anything else is extra credit or it's bonus points, and avoid beating yourself up.
That's key.
Mm-hmm.
What else we had in here?
Goals aligned with values. Trackings helped keep Ryan moving towards his goals. Support system. Yeah, support is huge. And we don't always appreciate how huge that support and people around us are. And I say to people, if you want to lose weight or stop smoking and you live in a house with smokers, you're around a lot of smokers, or you're in an office where everybody's eating donuts and fries, it's very hard. And we beat ourselves up for failing when we don't recognize the external factors that are tripping us up. So once we recognize that, then we can do things that reduce the influence of those, kind of accomplices or those bad influences, and develop some more positive influences.
Yeah, I think that's what, when I was talking about my initial exercise that I do, that plus or minus 20%, that's kind of the idea, is which ones are, which ones are positively influencing me, and which ones are people, places, and things are not positively influencing, and do less and more of those.
Yeah.
I mean, if tracking, and for some people, tracking is wonderful. Like I said, I love to do the tracking. It helps with my goals. For some people, though, the tracking is a detriment. It's because they didn't click that off. They didn't check that off. So I think that's it depends on your personality type, I think, for tracking.
Yeah, I think I want to add to that and reinforce that it's really, really critical for your success that you find things that work for you. And work means it delivers the results you're looking for, and it fits with your needs, your values, your interests, your preferences. It's sort of like, whenever I say that, I think of a 2-year-old, like, you got to get dressed. So do you want the blue shirt or the green shirt? So make sure that you figure out things that, again, work for you to deliver the results you want and fit for your preferences, your interests, your needs, your values. There are lots of ways to skin a cat. And so we invite you to think of yourself as kind of a scientist and a subject. So the scientist, the one is experimenting, trying different things out, seeing how they work. The subject's the one for whom the experiment is done to. The scientist says, well, how about doing, 10, or let's make it easy, 2 sit-ups, when you first open your eyes, do 2 sit-ups in bed, just get moving. And the subject does the exercises and then says, okay, well, I like it or I don't like it. So play with it, experiment, and see what works and fits for you.
I think that helps with the not beating yourself up too. When you have that experimenter's mindset, this is not a failure. This is, now I've learned a little bit more about myself and what I might work for me and what might not work for me. We are all individuals. We all come from our own background and history and values and biology. And so that one size does not fit everyone.
Yeah, in fact, Tom Peters says one size fits one. And so we really are encouraging you to find that perfect fit just for you.
So as we continue on here, the traps and mistakes. I think that's a great topic. You know, what happens when we make a mistake or we get trapped, we fall into a trap.
So traps and mistakes, there are lots of them. Being abstract, focusing on what you don't want to do versus what you do want to do. Thinking that you have to make the change forever. I'll never eat another piece of chocolate cake. Oh yeah, right. Too abstract. I already said making things too big. I'm a couch potato, so tomorrow I'm going to run a mile. Make it simple, make it easy. Another trap or mistake people make is not appreciating the influence of things and people around them. So, and that's why grocery stores put candy bars and those magazines with sensational headlines at the checkout counter. You're a sitting duck. I mean, they are very appealing, and you're right there. So that's an example of how things can influence your behaviors. So appreciate that. And those are, I think, some of the traps. Beating yourself up. Also, there's a phenomenon called the "what the hell" effect. And that is actually the clinical term. And that is what happens when you goof up, you slip up.
What the hell?
What the hell? The what the hell phenomenon. So what happens is, and I think this came out of studies on dieters. So, diet would be fine all week, and then they'd go, on Friday, they'd go out to eat, and they would eat the fries and the Coke, and they'd have a big piece of cake because it looks so delicious, and realize their diet they just screwed up their diet. And it's like, well, I've screwed up already. What the hell? I might as well have seconds. Or the next day is, I screwed up so badly. What the hell? I might as well do X. And so that leads them down a very, detrimental or negative road because they give up. So one of the things that we need to do is just forgive ourselves and say, hey, it happens. Let's jump right back on.
Yeah, and you can reset any day, any week, any moment, any minute can be a reset. And the piece that you talk about is with that what the hell moment is to ask you to celebrate, why didn't I do more when you do stop?
So say that again.
So if you said, okay, what the hell, and I'm doing more and more and more of the things that I'm trying to curb, but then you stop and you would beat yourself up. I'm like, oh, I had the fries and the Coke for all weekend, and but then I didn't. But Monday I stopped, and I'm like, oh, and so Monday I'm so upset because I ate bad all weekend. But no, why didn't you eat bad on Monday and continue down the road of continuing to eat poorly?
Yeah, and that's a great example of like catching yourself doing good and asking yourself, recognizing that you could have things could have been worse, but you stopped.
And asking yourself why, and celebrating that.
Mm-hmm. And how did you manage to do that? Mm-hmm.
And then the other piece that you said that I wanted to circle back around was the saying you don't have to do this forever. And so okay, I'm going to meditate, and instead of meditating every single day, you see, I'm just going to meditate today, and just today, and work with that. And or I'm not going to smoke just today, and be celebrating that.
Mm-hmm. And that's the one day at a time.
One day at a time, yeah. Or
Yeah.
even for the next hour,
Mhm.
depending on what it is.
Yeah, and that brings up the principle that do what it takes, even if it's just for the next minute. Every moment is an opportunity that you can choose. Is it going to harm me or help me? Is it going to get me to where I want to go? Or is it not getting me there? And every moment is an opportunity for you to choose and to succeed and to pat yourself on the back, because that builds that momentum for success.
I would love to hear other people's traps and mistakes that have come up that they've run into.
Ryan's raising his hand.
Okay, we can get him unmuted here. Can you unmute yourself? There. Yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, go ahead.
Hey, perfect. Hi, everyone. This is Ryan in Orlando, Florida. Nice to meet you all and interact with you on the chat. Hi, Glen and Deborah. Nice to meet you. Thank you both for putting this on. Just a little bit of feedback. I was taking notes because I wasn't sure how to interact on the Zoom. I have a couple things that I really like, and I also have a question. I really like the anchor for change. I don't think I realized, even though I gave the water bottle example, that I would consider something like that an anchor. So those examples like, hey, I'm gonna buy myself some new workout clothes. That's gonna incentivize me to want to work out. So I really like that. The other thing that that really stuck out for me, Glenn, was that you mentioned about the visualization and the picture on your phone. Like, how many times a day do we look at our phone? And I just had like the basic background, so why not put that reminder on there to maybe even subconsciously remind me of the goal that I want to make. The question that I have is the 4 categories for the habits. I got physical, social, and the occupation, about occupying your time. What was the 4th one? And thank you guys again for putting this on.
Internal. So there's the internal, psychological, emotional, identity, values, the physical, the social, and then occupational.
Yeah, and like you said before, the occupational one is something to not overlook. This the hobbies, or what are you going to do differently. I think that the hobbies are a great way to put your time closer to your values. So we're gonna running here up against our time, and we've got a lot of stuff in the chat. We're definitely gonna review the chat afterwards and address any questions that might have come up that we didn't get a chance to answer. I wanted to actually share my screen here one more time with you, because we have something exciting we want to share tonight that's specific for everyone here, and it's the announcement of our new course that we've been working on for months and months and months and months, that we are now finally announcing that is open for enrollment, and it is called Be Your Own Best Coach. And so, Deborah, can you just give us a little bit of a preview about what we're going to be doing starting the first week in February for 6 weeks?
Absolutely. So, experts are really important. You've got to have the data. It's got to be good. At the same time, ultimately, you need to be maximally successful. You have to internalize. You have to be able to own the principles and practices of good performance. So it's a healthy, positive mindset, and it's knowing those actions to take. So we want to encourage you to be your own best coach, and have created that course to help you shift the mindset, change your behavior, so you're happy, you're healthy, and do more stuff you care about. So we're going to have a 6-week course. It's going to be live sessions with Glen and me. We're going to be doing a lot of skills practice. We'll be doing discussion. There'll be online component with assignments, some inspirational videos, tips, and handouts, worksheets. We'll be doing some case-based learning, and there'll be some journaling also.
Yeah, lots of deep dive into lots of the topics we talked about today, and we're really working on building a community. We're going to have a community chat system for everybody to interact with, and office hours with us each week. to as well. And what we're really excited about to announce tonight is that for everybody that is registered for this workshop, we are going to be offering a 50% discount. It's our largest discount for anything that we're going to be doing for this course. And it'll be available for everyone that has registered. You should be getting an email, if you haven't gotten it already, that will give you all the details on how to register for the course and use the 50% coupon code, which is good up until January 15th.
And one thing that I wanted to say is that we work very collaboratively with people. You are your own best coach. We can offer ideas, we can offer options, but ultimately this is your life. You're the one that knows what works for you and fits for you. And we want to help you expand your thinking about options and then celebrate your successes and maybe tweak a few things if they're not working so well. So in the spirit of collaboration, I'd like to ask you to write into the chat, or if you're having trouble with writing into the chat, email us about what you heard tonight, what you thought about your own change process, your own New Year's resolutions that was helpful to you. So write in the chat what you heard yourself thinking about, or kind of maybe some decisions you made that you think are going to be very helpful for you to achieve those goals that you want. So let's hear from you. What did you hear yourself think or even say or write in the chat that was helpful to you? So I'll give you 30 seconds to do it, since we want to respect your time. We're coming down to the wire here. So what did you think, or write in the chat? What did you hear that was most helpful to you on your journey for keeping your New Year's resolutions or crushing them? All right, a few more minutes. Julie said anchoring change. Useful tips. Okay. Yeah, start small and show up. Yeah,
show up. Yeah,
I love that one. And then we're just about out of time, and this is important for us because I said we work collaboratively, so it's very important to us to know that we're serving you. And so we'd love your feedback in a really concise way, is to just rate the value of this workshop for you tonight on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 super, 1's the opposite. How would you rate this session for you tonight on that scale in terms of value to you? Again, just 1 to 10, 10 super, 1's the opposite. Great. All right.
Well, thank you all so much. We really appreciate your time, and we spent a lot of time working on getting this workshop together for you, and we're really happy to have had so many people sign up and register, and for everyone here who attended tonight and collaborated with us, thank you. It's a community of learning in order to be able to achieve your goals. You can't do it alone, and that's what we're trying to build here, is a community of learning.
So thank you very much, and we really hope you'll join us in the course. It's going to be super fun, impactful, and transform your life.
Thank you all.
Good night.